What's up, everybody? Blah, 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 blah. All right. I want to find a tag where we can describe, you know, the fact that I actually play chess. And teach chess, and you can actually learn chess by watching the stream. I'm not just a cam girl who sucks at chess or some random noob. I might not be a grandmaster, but I'm not a cam girl or noob who sucks at chess, and I really try to teach people how to play, and you can learn something by watching the stream. Sparkle Shark. Sharkle Horse. Oh, I'm in a good mood. Closer we get to the weekend, better my mood gets. Alright, what are we doing here? Can you guys hear me? Can you hear this guy? XL Poker? Did I see him? XL Poker Arsenal fan, Asterbate. I had this weird situation earlier today where I was trying to do a call on Discord, and Skype like just controlled my microphone. They couldn't hear me. So I was afraid that Skype would pirate my microphone again. But it looks good. The cam doesn't work though. I need a new cam. RIP Pondicam. I thought it was, I don't know. I can try a test using a different external camera maybe this weekend. But sorry for the late start, guys. We're still struggling with this time difference change, but it'll be all better on Sunday. You thought someone smeared Vaseline on the lens. Guys rather watch a chess cam girl? Alright. Whatever turns you on. But today's a serious stream. No political discussions. Thursday, I've got games from Asterbate. Let's see. Here's a list. Asterbate. Tomas sent me an opening position. I'm not sure it's right. Ripunj, Arsenal fan, Schumacher, and Mirali sent me a choice. So I have to choose one of a couple games that I like this. Oh, guys, don't forget it's Hype Train time. Let's see what else. Thirsty. Why am I in the Schumacher game? Hopefully, we get some other games. XL Poker, did you send me a game? You haven't played in your tournament yet. Got a tournament coming up. You seen Irina Crush killing the field? What are you talking about? I don't watch the it's too nationalistic. I'm not watching the American Cup. Isn't that like a yacht racing competition? Sorry, dude, I can't tune into anything involving St. Louis. The America's Cup. The far-right nationalist cup. Should have one of those here in Hungary, too. He gives a human... Yeah, okay. I like Yasser. But, you know, he's unscrupulous with who he'll work for. Unlike some people... Sure, man, sure. Yeah, see, here too on the stream, I don't like to overuse the engine. I think a good commentator doesn't need to... I like to use it to check, you know, critical positions. That's ideal, I think. I try to combine it, but Yasser has massive experience, so I mean, not too many people are gonna be able to compete with that. So, alright, Asterbate is first. We're going to get started here. ties girl. 1221. 20 ouncer. Oh man. That makes me think of like malt liquor. The old days in Austin. Austin, Massachusetts. A 20 ounce of college. 20 ouncer malt liquor. Pizza rolls and a junior roast beef. At 3 o'clock in the morning. That's the life. Riley's roast beef. The armpit of Boston. Alright. E4, C5. Is it time for a conspiracy? Asteroid's opponent ties girl 1221 is rated 1721. Are you guys ready for another conspiracy theory? Are you ready? I'm gonna drink this slowly. Got good Polish vodka. Are we ready for a serious conspiracy? Da-da-da, 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 da-da. Alright. There's nothing weird about that or anything. I think it's connected to Hunter Biden's laptop, personally. Alright. 2303-2023. That seems kind of suspicious to me, dude. Just saying. It's like his opponent's rating. What are the chances that ties girl 1221 is exactly 1721? It's like a 1 in 100 chance of that happening. Unbelievable. Alright. So Asteroid is playing C5, knight f3. I'm just like, you know, smoke and mirrors until I can get my focus together here. It's just a matter of getting my concentration together. That's why I'm spouting all kinds of bullshit. It's my way of just delaying the stream until I can focus. Deep breath. Alright. Knight f3, g6, hyper accelerated dragon. d4. And I think that anybody who plays the accelerated dragon, hyper accelerated dragon, as a player who studied with Roman, Roman's big go-to was bishop g7. I mean, Gingy always liked to play the modern anyway, and he was very, you know, very much into hyper-modern chess, pretty much, and Nimzabichi and stuff, but I mean, he loved this stuff, and if you want to avoid the Marazzi, bishop g7 is a risk that's probably worth taking. I personally don't have a very good score with this move, but it does avoid the Marazzi. You know, at the risk of allowing a Benoni, a kind of Benoni with d5. Hyper-accelerated pterodactyl. I'd really like to know how it came to be known as the pterodactyl. The main line is chopping on c3. That is another variation where if we were to play the modern defense, white would play knight c3 and black play like c5. But I'm trying to remember, yeah, in this line, Alexander Ivanov used to play this. It's really dicey. Yeah, this is also called a pterodactyl defense. Ram for Hinkus? Are you serious? This is an actual thing? Come on. Who's responsible for making this shit up? Seriously. I'd like to know who's responsible for that. Yeah, it probably is. That's even riskier, though, than this line. This isn't quite as bad. I mean, if you play bishop e7 here and he takes, you get the pawn back with queen a5 check. c3 and queen takes c5. It's a c3 Sicilian of sorts. So this is not near as bad. I remember I had this against Nodge back in 2010 when he was just a teenager, and I didn't know he would be a future grandmaster. We had a game in this line with like knight a3, b6, I think. Knight b5, bishop e7, bishop e3, queen c8. If I remember correctly. There it is. It's in the database. So I would occasionally I mean, you call it what you want, a pterodactyl or whatever. I think that it's essentially a c3 Sicilian of sorts. Whatever. All right. Anyway, I'm just saying, like, people who play the black side hyper accelerated should play this sometimes. My main concern is d5. There's also the against knight c3, Gingy didn't play this, but the Bocconi system, which is very popular with Hungarians. Bocconi is like a name, but it's also a region in Hungary, and I don't know how, and I really have to talk to somebody who has some historical knowledge of Hungarian chess. I don't know why it's called the Bocconi variation. I have to find out from someone who's knowledgeable. This is kind of like a cross between the two. But anyways, Astrobate just goes into he goes into Accelerated Dragon, and then of course, like, queen takes is the more dangerous move here when he plays knight takes. Now I expect most people to play the Marazzi. You can't avoid it now. But Thijs Garla, of course, plays this, like, noob move. This move is, like, the worst move ever. Yeah, that's really disgusting for white. Still, it's very hard to crack. Now, if you play knight f6, white can play e5, but I think this is probably good for black. In fact, I think Astrobate had like the same exact position last week. Yeah, I understand c3. It blunts the bishop on g7, and like 9 out of 10 noobs play that. But it's not absolutely necessary just yet. This is a really bad move. I can't remember who played this. I think I actually had somebody play this against me in Balaton in 1996. Once I think I saw Norman Rogers play it. It's a horrifying variation. There was a U.S. Open, and Norman Rogers played it against a friend of mine. E5, knight d5, e6, f6. This was my game. Pawn takes d7, and then queen d7. It's also possible to take with the bishop. This is all in John Donaldson's book on the Accelerated Dragon. There's John Donaldson in 1994, which I highly recommend, but it's out of date. It'd be good if John would like write an updated Accelerated Dragons. The other variation is like knight f6 here, knight d5, and the guy played this. And maybe the game's in the database. Let's see. It was in the U.S. Open. c4, I believe, knight b4. It's not in here. This is also bad for white. White's like totally overextended. Okay, c3. No games in the Masters database. I'm sure that lichess has millions. Now, Astrobate busted like the ultra creative approach. I like your spirit, Astrobate, but I have this internal sort of the little angel that sits on my shoulder, and it tells me not to do shit like this. Like, you're being too creative. Knock it the bleep off, you know? If you're seriously considering playing this move, you're probably being too creative. And the little angel the angel on your shoulder needs to, like, you know, you need to listen to the angel on your shoulder. This move is a nice idea. It's something like you might do later on. Yeah. I mean, he clearly wants to play bishop a6. You know, by the way, like, if white doesn't play c3, for example, don't we have bishop a6 here? Just for shits and giggles. We have this, right? Like, you could do this if you wanted to. Oh, shit. But that doesn't change anything, does it? It doesn't matter. It's still the same type of stuff. Anytime you try to take this, we're in a check and get it back. So I don't think that it's dependent on queen d4 or not. If queen d4, we just go here. I'm just saying, you know, the idea of playing bishop a6 is in the position. But, I mean, I want to present another idea here about this position and see what you guys think. You know, he has a couple of key pawns on light squares. And if white ends up, like, doing this, let's just say for fun, white, like, did this. Like, a lot of noobs will probably play this move. The moral of the story is, like, do you really want to do this? You know what I mean? Is it really worth it to, like, trade that crappy bishop off with bishop a6? At the end of the day, probably not. Alright, we'll see. So, c3. You know, to be perfectly honest, I think c3 is probably a better move than queen d4. But, I mean, if you ask me, like, what the best move is for white, I think I'd have a hard time answering, because I really don't know. This seriously might be, like, the most sensible way for white to continue. c3 is not necessary, you know, other moves don't really do anything, so let's just develop. And has bishop g5 been played? Yeah, bishop g5 will probably lead to problems with the b2 pawn. It leaves b2 unprotected, you know, I think that's a problem. No serious games with bishop g5. This is too sensitive. Another reason why c3 is useful. Okay, a5, too creative. Obviously, Acerbate should play knight f6, and on e5, just play knight d5, and you got a really, really good Alekhine defense. Here, too much. And then bishop c4. I mean, do you want to seriously consider doing this? Yes, probably. At least it would be consistent to play bishop a6. Excuse me? This was... Oh god, dude, this is just ridiculous. You just lost the central pawn, no big deal. It's perfectly normal. Just sacrifice the central pawn for nothing. It's Acerbate being too creative. Alright, so check it out. He sacrifices the central pawn, he destroys the enemy's center, and then trades off the bishop with bishop a6. So that's a neat idea. The only problem is we're down a pawn. And Arsenal's talking about queen d4, and that is clearly a thing that can happen. But objectively, I would probably play pawn takes pawn and try to trade queens and be a pawn up in an endgame. But black doesn't have to trade queens necessarily. But how would you avoid it? If you play this, I have queen d7 check, queen d7, pawn d7, king d7. You're a pawn down in an ending, and white is clearly better. So Acerbate went like way too far here. Unfortunately, there's no way to avoid the exchange of queens after pawn takes pawn. So you know, No good. It's no good. You would at least need to have your knight on f6 to prevent the exchange of queens. And if we had another move in, like something like this, I mean, I guess theoretically you could make an argument that in this type of position, at least like the queens are still on the board, and I guess you'd have some practical chances. But I don't like this with the queens off, you know, being a pawn down. So instead, white played c4. Yeah, I mean, this is clearly not as good. This pawn will be a little bit weak. You know, now he's like up a pawn but tied down to this pawn on d5. It's a totally different type of... This is a totally different type of situation. Still, white is clearly better. But look, I mean, the queens are on the board and the pawn on d5 is pretty loose. So basically, Asterbate got away with murder, but he's still worse, essentially. If you draw with black here, you know, good luck against Gergo Antal. So this actually looks like a decent move. I mean, bishop g5, putting pressure on the black position. And now, I wasn't sure, maybe queen a8, like a banco. But this is obviously Acerbate's favorite square to attack is the h2. Is anybody else here? Anybody else wants to submit a game? Where's Mr. Coffee? Still early? Sorry, Asterbate, no knight g4 yet. You're gonna have to play h5 to set that up. Oh, this guy or girl. Yeah, I mean, white needs to focus on the weak point in black's position. Exactly. I agree with rook e1. And rook e1 is the most sensible move, but this is a little tender. You really got to admit that f2 is a tad tender if you play rook e1. Yeah, queen e2 is good too, Ars. And we're going to get to something, remember my game with Banus? We're going to get to some end game like that. Very similar. Maybe white will be like up a pawn, but it's technically hard to win. Bishop f6 just trading off the bishop. Big freaking mistake, dude. Did I see a permission slip, Asterbate, to trade your bishop? I mean, white. Did white show a permission slip? That bishop is worth more than the knight on c3. It's a 3.5 point bishop. So, you know, the situation now is such that I think that black has almost full compensation. Loses in exchange. What? Who's losing in exchange? What? What are we talking about? How does white lose in exchange? Yeah, Asterbate made kind of a weird move here. I suppose it's okay, but I would think it'd be more natural to take with the bishop and keep this diagonal clear. We want the rook to go to like b6, maybe menace this pawn. Repunch your third. But I can make you first for a small fee. Yeah, he's just in time for knight a4. But the other problem is like white, you know, white has this weakness and this weakness. And so between the two weaknesses, black seems fine. If the knight goes out to a4, it won't be protecting the d5 pawn. It's like, you know, one problem or the other. I imagine that black is just fine here. Your sub expired today. Oh, sorry. Already? Sorry, we can't analyze your game. I have no exceptions. Sorry. Alright, bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6. Why rook takes? Okay, this is an interesting idea. I just thought about maybe rook f5, rook f5, rook h5, rook f5 hitting d5. It's a weird idea, but it's probably not bad. Maybe f5 is better than f4. I'm just kidding, Repunj, you know. Sarcasm is lost on the internet. This is kind of a tough one, man. I mean, Astrobate has rook b6, like, clearly winning the pawn back. And keeping the rook in a safer position. I mean, obviously knight e4 is a mistake for white. Like Arsenal said, something like queen e2. I mean, I agree, like, bishop takes is more natural, but it doesn't matter. I mean, the rook still can go to b6 or f5. From my perspective, even f4 to swing over here. But you definitely want it, the more distant the better. These are distance pieces, Astrobate. Knights are the only, like, close range pieces. Now we restored material equality. We have a strong bishop, and we have the better pawn structure. This a pawn, Nate pawn, the a pawn has good chances for long-term queening on a1. I told you to go to f5. And then another pawn, if you take on a2, you drop a5, but you win d5, so it's all good. Yeah, good job, man. Just keep grabbing. Grabbing. If rook a1's not even possible, so wow. So you had to play this. I mean, the knight is on a good square on e4, but now it's black who's up a clear pawn. With an outside pawn queening on a1. White's in serious trouble. And now another trick. And a nice move. Very clean game by Astrobate. Trades queens, and he's up 2 pawns. And they're both protected by the rook. A1 is controlled, and we really want to get that rook behind this a pawn, if we can. But white maybe can play rook b1, rook b8. If rook b1, a4, followed by rook a5, it looks really good for black. For example, here, here, what do you want to play? I'm coming here. Probably we sacrifice the d6 pawn. That one doesn't matter too much. The important thing is the a pawn. And black's probably winning here. He has less than 30 minutes. He's used 3 minutes for the game, 2.5. The increment is enough. Here, Astrobate protected his pawn on d6. But I think here is an important branch in the position. We need to seriously consider sacrificing that pawn back, like, for time. Here, knight takes d6, a4. And it's just boom, boom, boom. It looks real straight, very straightforward. How is white going to stop that pawn? Or if you take the other way, if you go here, he takes this, you take, he takes a4. He can't stop it. There's no way to stop the pawn. It's the perfect pawn with the bishop on g7. So you don't need to take time to defend that pawn on d6. The pawn on d6 is not valuable. Not really valuable. This was a big waste of time. You let him get behind your pawn, you know, you could have a problem. You're probably still winning, but it's not easy anymore after rook a6. Now there's some technical problems. You can double down on the 7th, get behind your a pawn. See, the guy also doesn't understand. He doesn't understand the important things here. This d pawn is not his problem. The a pawn is his problem. And to get counterplay by getting down on the 7th and behind your a pawn, So this move, or maybe this move, or maybe this move, any of those three moves make a lot more sense to me than going after the D pawn. Now Astrobate played bishop d4, which is just really stupid. Although already you have some issues. You know, now he's doubly protected a6, so if you play rook a8, he plays rook a6 and it's still hard to make progress. You needed to get your rook behind earlier. This could be hard to win now. If you lose one of these pawns, particularly the a pawn. Bishop d4, I don't really understand what that does. Here. 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 And now this bishop has trouble. It's nowhere near as good now. It's not helping this pawn to promote. Okay, this is a tricky position, but I imagine not easy to win. A4, threatening rook a8. So knight c3, rook a8, knight a2. You know, he can try to blockade. Probably black is winning, but it's not easy. So he blockades the dark square. That's going to be difficult. Now knight a4 doesn't work. He played it. Oh man. That's pretty cute. Boop. Just in time. So this is interesting now. Astrobate wasted a tempo here. You should just check and then promote. It's pretty much your best shot. It's a win. Check here. Queen. Queen. Rook takes. Rook takes, and you win the technical ending on the same side with 3 pawns each. Not easy, but it's a win. This is a blunder, and then white, you know. What should white do? I don't know. Maybe he can't save the game anyway. It's an extra tempo. It doesn't really change the game. It's the way you play the game that's important. I agree. So hello chess people. WJ Loof. Welcome. So you got a bonus pawn, but you're not promoting your pawn. Oh, now you are. Oof. So he didn't recognize, like, the... White didn't recognize the significance of the situation. You have bishop d4, that's very nice. Dominating the knight on a4. And now you're getting the full rook. Nice. Astrobate playing for mate. He's relentless. Checkmate. King g1 instead of king f, instead of... What, here? King g1? He could have taken on b6 after discovered check. Wait, what discovered check? Well, there was no discovered check, right? After rook e2, king f1. Oh. Rook e2, king f1. This is gonna... You know, it's obviously not gonna matter. The problem is, like, black just goes for the exchange. You know, wherever you go. The point is I should just go for the exchange. You know, just go here, and then rook b1. At the end of the day, it always comes down to just queening this pawn on a1, getting you to sack the rook. But the guy was lost all the way. Alright, good game, Astrobate. Very impressive. Alright, I want to check Tomas's game here. Tomas sent me a position. He's not online. Is he? Oh, he is online. Alright. He is online. I don't know if he's in the stream. Oh, there you are. You only sent a start position from your simul. That's start position. Okay, I wanted to know the story behind it. I know you wrote me. You held a simul last night where we played from a freaky position. Turned out it was a lot of fun, despite the starting position being far from optimal. Okay, so this was the starting position. I just wanted to double check what the story was, the backstory. Let me see if I got the position right. Let me know if I got this right. Not that. This. Is this the right position? This is the right position? Symmetrical with white to move. Do I want to know where this position came from? Or not really? I just want to make sure we got it. We got the right side to move here. The player with the tempo. I mean, yeah, I mean you would assume that compared to like a normal chess starting position, it's pretty open. Because the position's pretty open, I would assume the extra tempo means more than the standard opening position, right? But I'm not sure it necessarily means that black is like lost or anything. It's like chess 960. I mean, I guess like one big issue would be the possibility of being checked here. So if you make the routine move knight f3, black can play queen e7 check, and then what do? You don't really want to trade queens. Gina Rook was the only one to win against you. You won 5 out of 6. So I was thinking, like, this is an interesting possibility to try to prevent queen e7 check, first of all, and induce, like, f6, which would be bad. My first inclination is that bishop g5 is a good move. Maybe black's under serious pressure after that. You know, the routine knight f3 isn't as good. Although on queen e7 check you could play something uncompromising, like maybe king f1, not to trade queens. Could and probably should consider trying like king f1, but then the pin is somewhat annoying. That's about, let's see, that's about all the suggestions I have. Okay, the other suggestion would be like to go here, I suppose. You might be able to actually try to go here, but what if black... This is not as big a deal, you know, if it's us white doing it, you know, with the f3. I like it better. So that's pretty much, I think, my 3 candidate moves. I like bishop g5 the best. And then I mean knight f3 or knight e2 look safe. I mean king f1 is unnecessary repunish. That's just like, why do you want to like throw away your ability to castle for no particular reason? The flexibility to be able to castle is an inherent advantage. So I love that. Repunch, seriously, you're not a subscriber, so that doesn't look good. You have to be a former Gypsy. You have to be a former subscriber apparently to submit a game here to the stream. Where's Mr. Coffee? I don't think you're the ultimate person to be telling people to be a sub, submit a game, considering that you don't have a sub and you're like next in the line. It is white to move. I predict bishop g5. I say that's the best move. What do you guys think? No, queen e2 check. Queen e2 check. It's okay, but you know I think that this favors black's chances to equalize. I think after that, like white has only like a very, very microscopic advantage. I mean, if you're like Nefedov and you want to play the queen e2 Petrov, I'm sure that white's not worse. You know, you would force a trade of queens in a very much more safe position. Okay, Excel Poker said c3. I think you're going to be in the minority with that move. An interesting idea, Excel Poker, trying to destroy this pawn on d4. Interesting and controversial. c3 is controversial. Challenging a strong pawn, but also possibly unleashing that bishop on c5. You know, giving yourself some sort of queen b3 ideas. But I think c3 deserves, you know, to be taken seriously. Obviously, like knight d2 is also completely playable. But I just have this gut instinct that bishop g5 is best. So I'm curious, what did you do in all games? You played knight f3 in all your white moves? Yeah, I mean, what does black do on bishop g5? I mean, it seems like maybe he should consider queen d7. Is that a stupid idea? Possibly even queen d6? I kind of like queen d6, although then I guess this becomes a factor. This looks really weird. So what does black play there? Okay, maybe knight e7. White could castle on either side, obviously, or not castle. But it feels like white has strong attacking chances. Here, here, this file, the diagonal. It's very important to seize the initiative here. You had one. Oh, you were black? Wait, I don't understand. You played black and white, so you played 3 games with black and 3 games with white? You just contributed via Streamlabs. Wow, thank you. And Elaine just tipped $20. Nice, thank you. Very generous. That's more than enough. Alright, just send me the game you'd like to analyze here. A link to the game or the PGN to the game to my account Sparkle Horse on lichess, and we'll put you in next after Repunj. Copy link address. I'm gonna just put this back in, and we'll continue. We will continue in a minute. We'll continue with what we're doing in just a second here. What did I do? Did it go in there? Yeah. All right. So let me finish what I was analyzing here with Thomas's position. Yeah, that's fine. Thanks, Gypsy. So we'll address your questions. Let me finish this up in the next game, and we'll go to you. But I really like bishop g5. Computer, I'm turning it on. Seeing what the engine says. So far, very surprised. Depth 18, not that strong. Depth 19, not that strong. It seems to be shying away from knight f3, but for some reason it doesn't like bishop g5. But actually, I'm sorry for stuttering. You had 4 with white, 2 with black. So Thomas met bishop g5 with f6. My assumption is that f6 radically weakens black's position, but maybe the tempo with f6. I mean, dude, it's like a long-term problem, not a short-term. Like, we don't have any immediate way to crush him after bishop g5 f6, but my assumption was that the weakening on the color complex would be significant. It may not be. At depth 23, the computer is playing either knight f3 or knight e2, you know, our second and third choices. On this engine, I'm depth 23 with knight f3 and knight e2. It's not a bad processor. It's not like a world leading processor, but not bad. Depth 23. So what's the problem with bishop g5? It's still good. Bishop g5 is okay. So this is actually really interesting. Depth 20, and it drops down. Depth 21, it drops down. And it's f6. It's indeed f6, but it's coming back up again. Depth 22, 0.4. Depth 22.4. That would actually make bishop g5 its number 1 move, wouldn't it? I mean, it was analyzing the other moves at 0.3. Now it's giving white like 0.4 after bishop g5 f6 at depth 23. That would actually surpass knight f3 and knight e2. Let me go back again, see if it changes its mind. I mean, we're looking at 0.4 with bishop g5 at depth 24. So it looks like it's really a flip. You know, you could play any of the above. Bishop g5, knight f3, and knight e2, and all of them are good. But I have yet to see c3 break the top 3. I mean, my concern is that c3 in an open position isn't bad, but it's just not getting the pieces out. There it goes. Oh shit! It just busted into the top 2. c3 just made it at depth 25. I don't understand where bishop g5 is. It should be up there. c3 is now number 1. Someone has a fast computer. I still don't understand what it has against bishop g5. It's analyzing 0.4 at depth 23. Bishop g5, f6. Let's take it out a little further. Bishop f4. Personally, I was concerned with the dark squares, but white, will win this pawn if he tries something like bishop d6. So he has to develop. This appears to be the best. But it's a close call. No, it's really a close call. It looks like it's fading here. A little. It's like a French exchange. It's a weird French exchange is what it is. Alright, anyway, let's see what Thomas gave us here. This was his favorite game from said position. So he played knight f3. This is going to be an issue with bishop g4. But apparently, I think the computer doesn't like it right away. Black has to get his king out of the center, too. So apparently bishop f4 is bad. My assumption is that white must want to castle queenside. Getting to the e-file fast looks good. So black played bishop b4 check, provoking him to do the Excel poker thing. Does bishop g4 d6 work straight away? I don't think so. I mean, the bishop g4 is defended, so I don't see how any kind of trick like this would really have enough mustard. You're not threatening queen b3 or anything. You know, I don't think so. Maybe with c3 and jack here. Yeah, that was probably very good for white. That tempo to play that, like an Evans. And I mean, trading the dark square bishops would be a pretty sensible thing to do. But black plays tricky. Queen f6. This is against Balkus. Remember Balkus? Oh, I called him Balkush. Peter Balkush. Balkush Peter. Queen b6. Sorry, f6. I mean, it's an idea. He's pinning here. He's hitting the f4 guy. What could possibly go wrong? Lack of development. Maybe, yeah, let's play knight e7. And now you played bishop g5. I thought he would take here. You would take with the pawn, I guess. So he took, you just moved the king. Now he's tied down to e7. And if he plays queen d6, he loses a piece. That's a problem. Yeah, well, what's he gonna do? He has queen e5? You just take on c3. So he's lost here, isn't he? He has to sack his queen. He has to sack his queen for the rook and bishop. So take. With, you know, maybe some practical chances for black to survive. Yeah, king f1 was obviously forced, but a very strong move. Yeah, nice. Well, yeah, I mean, he had to sack his queen. He didn't want to sack his queen. Now he loses a piece. It's over. And then maybe bishop c1, bishop a3. A la Morales. Morales would have seen that. Oof, knight e4. You have knight e4 here, and then black has queen e5 hitting the rook. Maybe it's not so easy. Oof, that's really bad. That's a nice move though, knight e5. Very nice. No way black would survive with all those pieces attacking. So a classical attacking game. Alright, so that was an interesting experiment, playing the funky position. It reminded me of a French exchange. I don't know how you got that starting position, by the way. Tomas, how did you create the starting position? Was it just really, like, literally random? Guys, we're gonna do the Repunge game, and then Gypsy's game. Gypsy donating to the stream very generously. Alright, Repunge. Non-subscriber game. I'm just teasing him now. He was honest and said his sub expired. But it's hard to hide it. Yeah, Tomas, interesting though. That's a fun concept to play, like a kind of random simul position. So Repunge is black. d4, d5, knight c3. Alright. So nowadays we mostly see the Jabava London. The other possibility is a Trumpowski, aka, or Verisov. The Jabava London is actually a Verisov. I don't know why we're calling it Jabava London. It's just a form of Verisov. So I like what Repunge did here. This is a line that I analyzed with move 11. I love when I showed this to, or I played it and Tranquilizer saw this, he criticized a6, but I mean, come on, you know. This move has been tested at the highest levels. It's probably like one of Black's best lines. Vita Levante was all like classical and criticizing a6. A6 can't possibly be a good move or something like that, you know. I'm not sure I would recommend this to a beginner. Black is not influencing the center directly. This is not the kind of move that, you should play as a beginner. It's a subtle move, that intends to stop knight b5. There are lines where we're playing b5 though, so it goes both ways. It's not only about stopping knight b5. What we normally want to do is play a kind of French type of setup with e6. Although that seems passive, it seems like the best setup against the Jababa or Yubaba London. Something also good is e6. That's solid, but allows knight b5, and then you have to play like knight a6 or whatever, which is a little bit weird. I also wanted to say that Repunj, most people who play this are going to be playing like bishop f4. You need to really seriously consider the option of playing c5 on move 2. If you play c5, you would cut out the Yubaba London crap. I had a game the other day where it's like an Albin in reverse. 30 years ago, I had a game with FIDE Master Jacob Racine. I think I lost. It was like one of our early games at the Boylston Chess Club. Pretty much like 30 years ago. He played e4 against me. Like, d takes e4. Hans. The engine cannot be wrong. But I mean, if you want to mess up these people who are trying to play the Jababa London, c5 will take away their bishop f4. They might not know what they're doing. So anyways, knight c3, knight f6 I also play this, but usually by knight f6 first move. And now bishop f4, a6, and now knight f3. Knight f3 is a mistake. We were looking at this quite a bit with move 11. He had a game in a recent tournament where his opponent played, the correct move, e3. And then here we play e6 now, which is kind of counterintuitive because you're allowing g4. So g4, and then the key line is actually bishop b4. We looked at this quite a bit. So it looks like this is fine for black. We couldn't really find anything great for white in this line. White doesn't seem to have a great answer for this. Well, I mean, the point is he can play knight e2 here. And that's probably his best chance. But his attack isn't that scary. We're not going to take this pawn on g4. I guess you just castle. Here's some games, but notice that white didn't win very many. This position has been reached a lot, and almost no wins for white at all. So after let's say castles, a3, bishop e7, g5, and now you have knight h5. Or possibly even knight fd7. But it looks like knight h5 is probably better. Going after the bishop. Alright, anyway, that's an idea. Knight f3 is not considered as good. So here, the advantage of this, I guess, is that, bishop g4 isn't really an option. Savchenko played it, but I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me to play bishop g4 here. So, if we look at my games, I have, my win against Casabianca, who has been account closed, of course. But one of the only games where they didn't, overtly cheat against me. I also beat Augusto. e6. Yeah, e6 is good. I'm just ready to play, c5, b5, something very fluid. No, knight f3, I mean, it's just like nothing special for white to do. There's no good answer to this. You know, I'm just like, you're not going to be able to castle queenside. I'll be all over you. And, yeah, e6 is the secret, I think. I killed Casabianca, you know, who, like, that's the only game they ever lost to me, I think. e6, knight e5? Aldisto played that. Yeah, that's not particularly great. e3, and then here I did c5. I have 2 games. c5, you get the idea. Bishop e2, b5. And it's like, what can white do to you? You know, like, what are they going to do? Castle queenside and play sharp position? Yeah, right. Like, with my pawns up there? So they have to settle for castling short, and they don't have, like, one of these, like, attacking positions. I just did here, just for example, if you look at this game, it's a good illustration of white doesn't really have any attack, you know. It's just a position, and even, you know, Casabianca got nothing against me here. Bishop takes c5, and I thought black is a tiny bit better. Yeah, so this e3 is the serious try, apparently. e3, e6, g4. I only have 1 game where this happened. Oh, look who it is. Casabianca versus Sparklehorse. And now I messed up. I didn't know the bishop b4 move at the time. So I tried to play b5. And this is far sharper. Yeah, I got destroyed here by this guy's engine. Casabianca was clearly cheating. I called them out, and they denied it, and then their account was closed. It was overt. They were in the top 10 in the site in, like, rapid. And I don't know what they were trying to pull, but... Alright. Bishop f4, a6, knight f3, c5. By the way, Ripunj, I mean, I don't think this is a bad move, necessarily. But you've played a6, so if they take here... Can they swing out to a4 and protect it? I might have played this myself once. Or is, like, b4 a thing? Oh no. Sasha Gelman versus Sparklehorse. I don't want to be reminded of that. That was horrible. He's like a blitz specialist. A blitz Jibaba specialist. So he didn't take on c5 against me. I would think like that would be like the move. The point is, if e6, knight a4. I guess I was prepared to play this. Takes, check. c3, queen takes c5. But white is slightly better. I don't have any compensation for the fact that I don't have a dark square bishop here. Well, I guess I have some compensation. I mean, the fact that I have a strong pawn on d5. But I don't think it's enough. I don't know if I fully believe this for black. No games in the master database. Weird. What does the computer think? Oh, it goes the other direction with e4. Interesting. Wow. So it plays it like a French. e4, bishop takes c5. It looks like some kind of French. Interesting. But yeah, that's weird. Even Sasha Gelman, who's like an expert on this system, didn't play d takes c5 against me. That's the engine's move. That's the only move that's good for white, according to the Stockfish. The other thing is, like, how are there no games in this position? Weird. That is weird, man. Even b5 has been played. Okay, so you played c5 and white played e3, and now we transposed. Now you transpose to another variation, which may be pretty standard. Now you can play bishop g4. What happens if bishop g4 now? Only one game would this happen. You know, again, I would be concerned about this. e6, knight a4. If bishop takes c5, knight takes c5, queen a5 check, c3, queen takes a5, and you have some problems. So bishop g4 is too much. Knight c6 is good. We're getting the pawn back, or it's the same shit with knight a4, right? Takes. And now you're supposed to play e6. You're supposed to play e6 and then do the thing, you know, with bishop takes c5. Vachier versus Nakamura. You're slightly worse, and there's practically like no winning chances for black. That's the problem here. It's a very solid position for white with the bishop pair. Yeah, you know, you don't want to be playing this position against Magnus. Wesley So chose to do that in 2017. You just have no activity in a slightly passive position. White has the bishop pair. So this variation isn't so hot. It looks like your mistake is to play knight c6 here. If you're going to play this move order, you know, objectively you should probably play pawn takes pawn. Or e6. You know, e6 is fine too. You're absolutely fine. Yeah, I guess e6 is even better. Why even play pawn takes pawn? This is fine. This is an inaccuracy. And he was right. And now this is slow, but interesting. Okay. Maybe bishop g4 is better than e6 at this point. Bishop e2, e6, and now knight a4. Hanging onto the pawn on a4. Andrew Tang, the bullet London system master of everything I hate. Anti-chess, basically. So it just struck me that it'd be funny. Andrew Tate versus Andrew Tang. Alright, h3, bishop takes f3, bishop takes f3, bishop takes c5, and you're fine. This is much better than it could have been. White has the bishop pair, but it's not that easy for white to use it. Probably need to crack it open with e4 somehow for that bishop to matter. Yeah, so white really needs to know this idea of knight a4, taking advantage of a6. By the way, you know, do you have to play bishop takes f3? No. I would consider all my options here. Even bishop f5. It's a little weird. I mean, bishop f5 here. I don't know. You know, I guess bishop h5. This was played by Pia Kramling. Knight a4. Knight d7. Wow. There's a couple of games. Hoping to get this pawn back eventually. Yeah. Bishop takes f3 is simpler for short term. I mean, Stefanova with white here, losing. But she lost to Vallejo. Vallejo is just much stronger, but I mean, it is kind of ridiculous for white to lose with this position. But I mean, she's backward on the c-file. Black has a minority attack. White has to find something to do with this light square bishop. Still, she shouldn't lose. Computer's giving him an edge here. Bishop d6, trading the bishop pair off. And she played an unbelievable move in this position. Like, you need to seriously have brain surgery. You're playing Paco Vallejo and you played g3 in this position. I can understand if you're playing like a 1300 or something. That's crazy, bro. What's her point? Like, to take back with the e-pawn? But I mean, then why would you need to play g3 in the first place? She played g3. That is so weird. I can't believe he didn't take on f4. I guess the g3 just amounts to kind of a tempo loss. The bishop wants to go back to g2. But I mean, this definitely doesn't look safe. You get blasted with g5. It's really, I mean, why did she just play bishop takes d6? I mean, I don't get it, but alright. Yeah. Well, you can't let the white square bishop dominate the board. So, although rook c8 is an interesting move, things could get tactical now. If d4, knight a4, no problem. What about d4, e5? We just take here. So my impression is that d4, I mean e4 is a good intention, but a bad execution. It looks bad. It looks bad. I mean, it's a good idea that just doesn't work because black can keep the position closed with d4. Okay, this is an idea. Maybe to play here, here, here. Blockade on the light squares. I would actually consider maybe this move. Then white has e5, which opening up this. You know, so this is like the normal thing to do. Here. d4, e5. d4, e5. Yeah. No, of course that's the first thing you should consider. But I doubt it works. You know, we probably end up like winning a pawn or something. Queen d8, rook d8, ef6, c takes b2. Queen takes, rook takes, e takes f6, c takes b2. Black's gonna queen, so you have to go here. But it looks like if black isn't perfect, it might almost work. You have to find a very strong move there, bishop d4. But I'm not surprised it doesn't work. It doesn't look like it should work. So e4 is a mistake, d4, and then I think he ought to go to e2. Like seriously, if you play this blockade, you know, that might not be that bad for white. You can't let the white square bishop dominate the game. But I mean, knight b1 looks really stupid. This is extremely slow. Extremely slow for white. So bishop d6, e5 keeps popping up. This type of variation. As much as I would like to play bishop d6, I can't. You know, you might be able to play something funky like that. It still looks like white could play e5, opening up the white square bishop. Maybe knight d4 could work. But in any case, like e5 is definitely fine for black. But you do have to watch out for these white squares. You know, if the white squares are like nothing there, you're better. If white can make your white square bishop make their white square bishop work, then white can be better. This white square bishop will determine, you know, the fate of this white square bishop determines the evaluation of this position. If it stays bad, black is better. If it activates and becomes a powerhouse, then maybe even white is better. Why don't you just castle and see? No, I mean, white's threatening e5 here. So this is a serious problem. If we just castle and c e5, you can go here maybe. But still, the point is that this bishop is in the game. You know, I don't want it in the game. Yeah, but I don't want the white square bishop in the game. You know what I mean? This bishop is strong now. This thing is a monster. You know. Okay, it's hanging. Sorry, he has to move the bishop. Okay, whatever. Bishop h2 or bishop g3. I get it. Okay, it's under attack, but still. You get my point. Like, this bishop is in the game. here very effectively. I don't really want that to happen necessarily. So I think e5 is okay. Then white played bishop g3. I don't know. Keeping pressure on e5 probably not a bad idea. But I mean, this deserves to be considered. You know, there you might want to play bishop e7. I don't know. And then g5. This is extremely radical. Extremely radical move, g5. I don't think Morales would play g5, but he might. I mean, g5 is extremely weakening. I mean, it just might work. Honestly, white needs to consider h4. I mean, this is a risky move, right? But it deserves consideration. I guess you could just play h6 and chill. There are also ideas involving bishop g4. But honestly, h4 looks risky for white. Not sure what white should do here. There's definitely the XL poker idea of playing c3. But he screwed up by like putting his knight on b1. I mean, the point was this knight should have been on c1. It can go to d3. It's a very strong blockader. It puts pressure on e5. Yeah, it's okay here, but it doesn't do anything much. And now naturally h5. If you're gonna play g5, you're definitely following up with h5. If you're permitted to do so. And now he plays h4, which isn't forced, certainly. It's a tough call. So how's the key to the position doing? I mean, I said basically that the game will hinge on this bishop, whether it's active or useless in most cases. I mean, clearly there are other factors. We can't even think about moving the f-pawn. Now knight d7. I mean, I like that this knight is keeping pressure on the e4 pawn. And where is black's king going? How are you breaking through? This looks like kind of a frustrating position. I would actually consider... Yeah, I guess I understand why you did what you did. I mean, this... But what's going to happen on bishop c4? He can play like bishop c4. He does this soon. And he can stick it on d5. Why not h5, knight c4? Well, I mean, white decided to play it safe with h4, but I'm not sure it's necessary. Sure, man. He didn't have to play h4. White could play other moves. Knight c4 is not... It's not the stablest of moves. It's really not clear where that's going. So I think the problem here is probably something like queen e7. I defend this, and then I can kick you out with b5. It's very likely their arsenal white would have to follow up with a4 in order to stop that, or at least discourage it. I'm not sure about... I agree e5 is very important in the position Ars. I mean, both pawns are, you know, the central pawns, but knight c4 is not too stable. I'm not saying I like h4. But he obviously wanted to clarify the situation on the king side. And now c3. This is mega controversial. But like the light squares look real juicy. But then again, you got danger here. But how is black going to take advantage of it? I don't think that c3 is bad. I thought his intention was to actually come back here and play like knight c6 to g6. Try to come over here and hit the h and f4 squares. But repunch is too slow, you know? I mean, if like this, you're getting hammered on these squares. Any of that kind of stuff is too slow. But it's too slow. c3 is actually a good move. Black has to actually consider realistically taking and fixing the pawn structure. I see what he did though. Okay, this is a good move. Yeah, I missed this. This was his idea with knight d7. Obviously, you know, he wasn't freeing up e7 for the knight. He was freeing up e7 for the bishop. So that's a major issue. So now white has to be quick. Again, now your knight c4. Now your knight c4 is just too slow for sure. Wow. So actually, yeah, that was the point. Knight here, I missed it, to attack h4. Yeah, no, it is. It's consistent, of course. I missed it. Well, personally, h4 may have been a mistake. You know, he may have panicked there. Now he's got a serious problem. I mean, is there anything that white can do? There is. I mean, f4 or f3. Terrible now. Now this bishop h4 absolutely like wrecks any chance of white breaking with the f pawn. So it looks like white's in serious trouble. And I'm not really sure what this does, objectively. Okay, so he gives up one pawn. It discourages bishop takes g3. That's a pretty nice idea by white. He's kind of making white, you know, black not want to do bishop takes g3. So that's not bad. Yeah. So you're going to have to go slow. Like bishop g5 or something. Exactly. I mean, could white have put more pressure on the position somehow? Like queen b3? Doesn't look super convincing, but it's possible. No, I don't trust repunch g5. I think it's probably like a little too much, but not easy to deal with. My instinct is that g5 was wrong and h4 was wrong, but both sides have to play accurately. So he's piled up on e5, but now h4 is coming. If h4, bishop takes c6. So queen f6. Ars is right. As always. I will admit, the bishop became a great piece on d5. But black managed to hold up the e5 strong point. And now this move. That's interesting. Holy shit. Now it's really getting crazy. We hope that white's, like, maybe Repunch's opponent is Viswanathan Anand. This was a simul game. No, just kidding. Yeah, f3 is unpleasant. It looks like a good try. You missed the win here. Not that easy, maybe. Bishop, I don't see it. Like, what could it be? Yeah, that's a nice idea, Ars. Of course, we gotta watch this diagonal. Man, f3 looks like a good move. I don't see a win for black. Because this is a threat. Well, I mean, what can you do? Like, bishop f4? Pawn takes pawn. Maybe. Then what's the follow-up? I don't see a follow-up. I just don't see anything. Yeah, I mean, Queen H6 is definitely a playable arsenal. Like, I'm not particularly worried about this. But I'm still not convinced. I mean, what if you do h4? Pawn takes pawn, queen h6. Bishop takes a7 check here. But there's no clear threat after this bishop moves. Queen h6 is what he played. Yeah. Damn, I'm stumped. I don't know, man. There's not that many moves you can play here. You gotta defend. I mean, it better not be like knight d8 or something. That'd be really sick if it's knight d8. It doesn't seem likely. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see what the engine says. b5. Wow, that's a tough move. I mean, it looks like white's breaking through here. I mean, it's kind of in the arsenal variation. I don't know if I would put my king on d8, but I guess it doesn't matter. So the point is, the knight just... like, white just doesn't really have a threat in this position. Well, I think an Uber driver's expression, Morales, that we should analyze the forcing moves, you know? I'd like to think I would have found that move in a tournament game. Well, I honestly, I mean, you may not have too many choices. As I said, like, one of the only ways to defend f7 is, like, knight d8. If you don't play b5, I mean, we're looking at stuff like knight d8, pawn takes pawn, queen g7, you know? But the problem with this position is that black has no threat here. Or the threat is much, much less. You don't get b5? Well, I mean, the thing is with b5, he's gonna take the knight. The knight's gonna lose control of e3. So I guess it's pretty simple. When the knight moves, you get check in, and then, you know, he's getting mated on the h file. That's all there is to it, you know. White's just going to get checkmated down the h-file if he takes. Well, I mean, how does white prevent you from opening the h-file decisively with the bishop coming to e3? So bishop takes f7 is something. Yeah. Bishop takes f7. Yeah, and so here, but the knight's hanging. You know, you can't do both. You can't save your knight and prevent the h-file from opening. And the main thing is that, like, king here or king here, either way, the black king is actually surprisingly safe on e7, at least for the time being. So, you know, okay, this looks scary, but still, it's a whole knight. Check, king d8. You know, and this is probably why the computer likes king d8 better than king e7 at the end of the day. For two reasons, right? So let's say pawn takes pawn, queen h6, bishop takes, king here. So you're not going to get hit by rook takes f7, first of all. And it's funny, this is controlled, this is controlled, this is controlled, and this is controlled. And this is controlled. So the knight's only squares it can go to are d2 and a3. Without falling. Yeah. Holy shit, now it's getting crazy. That white square bishop busted loose. Check. Knight takes. Pawn takes, threatening queen h1 mate. Bishop takes check. What about king d8? What about king d8? I'll need to know why you didn't play king d8, partner. I guess it doesn't really matter that much. But it's still like a little bit less checks. Oh, he has queen h3. Oh, no. That's why. Oh, no. Wow. This is crazy. You gotta take two connectors. And then white played what? Rook f5? I don't think that's gonna work. Yeah, knight d4 is a cool move. I mean, can't white do anything here? Yeah, this bishop's gonna be hanging. Oh man, knight d4 is a nice move. And just recapture. How is he gonna stop those pawns? Rook e1? You have rook c2. You have rook e4. But rook f5 looks pretty bad. Yeah, it's funny, you're only up one pawn. You do have rook c2 here, right? Wow. What about king e3, rook f1? Okay. So he has to go there. That's really sad. That's so sad for white. So now what? Rook h8? It's not fast enough. Does Rook h8 work? I like this move. G3. Well, obviously Rook h1 check. Here. Rook f1 check. Here. Rook takes rook. So how's Rook h8? Yeah. Rook e8 is good. Rook e8 is good, but Rook h8 is better. That's funny. Yeah, Rook e8. Yeah, because now, like, how do you finish him off? You have to play, like, Rook e3. This is so awkward. That is so awkward. He didn't find Rook h8. Yeah, that's Repunch needs to work on endgames. Yeah, I mean, if Rook takes Rook, you have d2, right? What a king. Yeah, now... Oof, that's nice. Now it's over. Alright, good game. Very interesting battle from the tournament. Now we're going to do Gypsy 999 against Orbitich S. I think I played this guy. Orbitich S. I think I played him in an hourly arena or something. I remember. Yeah, interesting game. That's like the Serbian gum. It's not Orbit. It's Orbitich. He's in Orbitich. Alright. Gypsy, thanks for subscribing, or rather, donating. GM Hiraku Insane. Hiraku. Hikaru. I'm dyslexic. I am dyslexic. Subscribed. Oh, nice. So Gypsy played knight c3. You're back in 2 minutes. We've got games from Arsenal fan coming up. Schumacher. Did I forget someone? Morales. Morales, did you decide? Let's while we're waiting, let's pick a game for Morales. Morales should be first. He should be before the others. After this. Morales. I can't even spell right. It's not. Alright. There you are. A. Morales. I never remember people's screen names. With the letters and numbers. Alright. We have to pick a game. Unsure which game. Against Roku, opening interesting. Against Me King, interesting opening trap I fully fell into. Rick the Rouser. Against Jai, it was probably my most solid game in the tournament. Alright, let's do that. Solid game in the tournament sounds good. Analysis board. We'll put that in for the next game. After this, you did submit this game previously to those other guys. I just didn't put it in the list because I needed to choose a game. I want to learn the secret of how to... You let me down the other week. We were paired and you aborted the tournament. Dude. Morales, we were paired and you aborted the tournament. This is getting to be... Did you know that we were paired in the last round of Tuesday? And you left? You did the same thing to me, yeah. I was really pissed he, like, forfeited that last round game to give me a chance to win first place. I actually didn't care. I would have felt bad if I won, though. I didn't win the tournament on tiebreaks anyway, so it wasn't really a big deal. But just remember, everybody remember to click the withdraw button. It's just that there's so few Swiss tournaments. I think, like, no one thinks about it. had terrible tiebreak. Yeah, Hiroku seems inconsistent. He can play really well at times. It may depend on the opening he's playing. Alright, I'm going to start this game with Gypsy. He said he would be back in 2 minutes. So, knight c3, knight f6, e4. Well, I mean, I think the big question is what you're going to play. Wow. This was a recent 3-minute game, which went to shit, basically. Toward the end, you end up winning. My question is this. I'm very often able to get a very strong attacking position with white, with this white opening. Then it often fizzles. Any suggestions? In between move or two that I'm missing the opening, is it a good, bad idea to open up the F-file? Should I be driving up the H-pawn at some point? Okay. Well, it depends, obviously, on the exact opening. When you play knight c3, there are going to be a lot of transpositions to other things sometimes. My biggest concern here, is of course, like, what are you going to play against e5? There, yeah, you might want to go with f4. There are other approaches. If black plays d5, totally different game. Now you're supposed to play e5, or you can alternatively like take and play like bishop c4. But I think it depends on what black does. If the ball's in black's court here, he's got different setups he can play. So after d6, at that point I think, we're down to really like 2 primary choices. I mean, usually you're going to play d4 and play a Pierce. What you did though is valid. Like, if your setup is a Grand Prix attack kind of thing, this is totally valid against the Pierce. It's not bad. Now, alternatively, like, even bishop c4 is a move. I'm not a big fan of it. That's also a move. So f4, okay, you're going to play Grand Prix style. Right. Now, normally black would... Well, a lot of noobs would play e5, which is a bad... It's just a bad Vienna / King's Gambit / horrible for black. And yeah, you're playing down the f-file with a very strong position. I would expect g6, in which case you have a choice between going into main lines or playing a Grand Prix attack type thing versus the Pierce. But I mean, the question is, I guess, after bishop g7, you really have to choose either Pierce main line, bishop c4. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, g3 looks just kind of lame. So, your opponent played a surprising move, though, knight c6. So I've probably played this on occasion, but with black. But I wouldn't usually choose this kind of move order. You should probably play knight f3. There's an independent possibility of playing bishop e5 here. But as I tell Asterbait, like, it's usually better to play knight f3 and keep your options open. In this case, though, he's committed to knight c6. You could definitely play bishop b5. It's a move. I think all of them are playable, but, my usual comment is, like, the knight's always going to f3. You may not be 100% certain if you're putting your bishop on c4 or b5. So playing knight f3. You played bishop b5. Fine. Black played a6. Ubatis, one of our viewers, often does stuff like bishop d7. It's probably reasonable. Black could even try g6, I guess. I prefer knight f3. I mean, I think there's still a chance black will play e5 when you get a good Vienna. That's probably a good reason to delay bishop b5. If he's smart, he won't. Now black has a6, bishop d7, possibly g6. And I think once you commit to bishop b5, you have to go through with bishop takes here. I've had a lot of games with people. I don't know, Morales, what do you think? You play this kind of stuff. I mean, is this viable for white to do like bishop e3? I have had occasional games like this with bishop a4. b5. Maybe this just doesn't work. You don't think it's possible? Could black like gamble with this? Anyways, I think bishop c6 is correct. So, alright. Now it's like... It's basically a Grand Prix attack. You know, but black has two c-pawns and they're on c6 and c7. He really needs to play g6. I mean, otherwise, like, what's he gonna do? Black could consider playing maybe bishop g4. With the idea of maybe knight d7 and I don't know, e6, but it's pretty lame. I mean, you're going to attack him down the f-file. It's definitely f-file, f-file, f-file. F-file in pawn structure. So I think g6 is the best move. Now d3, absolutely correct. You want this diagonal to open up, play for f5. Bishop g7, and it's a standard Grand Prix attack. You know, this pawn might as well be on c5. And it's a Sicilian. Castles. You actually transposed to a game from 1971. Unbelievable. Knack is unbelievable. He was in the World Senior Championship. He's in good condition. He looks like totally good for 80. Amazing player. It's amazing to play in a tournament with someone who was playing tournament chess 50 years ago. Before you were born, you know, that's pretty cool, to be perfectly honest. Castles, queen e1. Yeah, this is good. You know, you don't want to do this. I mean, you want to do this. You know, you're playing for f5, and you want this queen maneuver definitely. Arthur Henning's like, good player. He must have died a long time ago. Queen e1. And Knack here was young, and, you know, he has a difficult position, lost. He was only 2,300 at that time, but would go on to become an extremely strong German grandmaster. But it's difficult to say what black should do, you know. See, this is what I call the ghost piece. The bishop on c8. It's like, it's a great bishop. It has a lot of scope, but it can't do anything. So very difficult position for black to play. Honestly, if he could play f5, I think he should. If he could play f5, maybe in this position, if he could jump over the knight, it might even be a good move. Theoretically. Even there, it's like a little dodgy, because you could maybe jump into e6 or something. But the white squares are very important, right? So your job here is to play for f5. Henning's played knight d7. I mean, sorry, Knack played knight d7. It's super passive. This is honestly super passive. I don't know, man. Maybe black should play like c5 or something objectively. Another idea for black would be like rook b8. But I mean, once you get the structure, you can play b3 and just lock down the doubled pawns. Your queen protects this. You can also just play according to the pawn structure. No, I'm saying, like, if Morales, if black wanted to play bishop g4, he should have played it, like, right away. He could have played bishop g4 here, like Arthur Kogan versus some guy. Someone actually played d3 here. Yeah. I mean, that would be an alternative setup. I would think knight d7. That way black has, you know, two options. Asterbate has been known to play h3, but I think it's going a little too far, you know? Yeah, definitely. And so black decided to try something kind of desperate here with d5. Is it too late to play bishop g4? It's a good question. I feel it might be too late. I don't know. Whatever happens, I mean, white is clearly better. You could play f5 and have clear advantage here. Yeah. I mean, this is like no-brainer. You have compensation. But I was wondering if you could try to trap his bishop. You know, something weird like knight g5, maybe even knight d4. But if you play knight d4, for example, what does black do? He might have some weird move. But most likely black would probably go back. Yeah, you gotta be careful. Knight d4, c5. Okay. Yeah, good suggestion. No, this is probably a good move, c5. Yeah, so I think you should just go with the flow. Let him take. I mean, white has a kind of standard attack here. It looks pretty dangerous, to be honest. I mean, that's the Grand Prix attack. Is it enough, though? It's on the fence. It looks like black's just barely holding on with h6 there, for example. But the attack is very thematic, you know. I think I'd rather not let him trade off this knight. But Renier Knock's move is just, this is too passive, you know. I can't imagine this is enough. So Arthur Hendricks here played bishop e3. But honestly, I don't know. I mean, what is Knock going to do? Like queen h4, e6 and try to trade the queen off? If he could do that, he'd be alright. But I mean, look at his bishop, man. It's like buried. Maybe I should take that back. What's he going to play here? f5? I'm sure even Rainier Knock at 2300 was strong. Could it possibly be f5? Yeah, it could. Well, after bishop e3, what did he do? He did c5, rook d1, rook b8. Okay, nothing involving f5. But I'm not in love with this move, bishop e3. Alright, anyway, that didn't happen. So we see this. This is totally crazy. Like, loss of control of the dark squares. So now it's a totally different question. You have like a Nimzovich-ian lockdown on the dark squares. What we're looking at here. Now the question, you know, may be very different. Asteroid had a game we looked at where he did d5 in the wrong position. I mean, you have to start considering e5 now, because the position just totally changed. If black plays like this, I mean, sorry, knight e8, knight a4, it's over. You know, it's almost over. He played knight e8. I mean, it's a terrible move. But I mean, maybe this is bad too. I don't know. Well, I mean, d5 is a terrible move. d5 is a horrible positional mistake. This is definitely right. And now after knight e8, yeah, you went berserk with f5. There's just no reason to go berserk with f5. You should just focus on this, all these squares. He's like strategically lost on the dark squares. It's like an old computer or something. You could do knight d4. You know, bishop d7, knight b3. It's just, yeah, Morales would love this. In fact, I mean, it feels like black should try something more active. I mean, knight d7 at least controls c5 and fights for control of this. Of course, white has e6, but Morales is the expert. Yeah, e5 is good. This is a blunder. And now f5 is a blunder. There's just no reason to do that. You know, just lock down the blockade on the dark squares, and it's game over. Black's knight is totally screwed. So now he's like two bad pieces. The bishop's that blocked out. The knight is like out of the game. His rook is bad. His ghost bishop looks good but can't do anything. Yeah. I mean, this is a crazy move. You know, and if I were him, I would take it. I would probably take it and take my chances with something like bishop takes f5, knight d4, bishop d7. At least he has hope there. Or possibly take with the g pawn, though that looks riskier. But I think it's a little crazy to not take it. He plays c5, kind of giving you another chance. I mean, I suppose at this point, like, you know, you let yourself get out of control. You're overextended. But maybe you should just take on g6. That's what you did. And then, yeah, I mean, the game can go back to, like, a normal positional game now. I don't know which way you should take. This seems a little safer. Still, he has weakness here. So I think you have to be able to shift gears. You know, you can shift gears to a positional sort of game. I mean, if you take the Grand Prix attack or whatever, it can lead to violent attacks, but it's positionally based. It's not like you're playing the Mora Gambit or the King's Gambit or something crazy. Even the King's Gambit could be argued to be very positionally based opening. So that's kind of, okay, it's not a Danish Gambit or whatever. You know, you're not basing your attack on development. It's strategic. But this looks bad. You know, his c5 still. I would seriously consider knight a4 here. And I don't see like how he's protecting that pawn. I think you need to look at the game in terms of like color complex. You need to switch beers. This looks very strong. You know, notice how bad his knight is. It just can't go out, you know. But it's not as good as it should have been. f5 was a crazy move. fg6, fg6. Okay, queen h4. You're going for like a direct attack plan. Bishop h6, also a good exchange. Here, that's also a weak move. Maybe he gives him this. Yeah, so you're trying to like be too direct. Honestly, bishop h6 looks like a good move. But I'm not sure you're necessarily like winning. You play bishop h6 first, and then you play knight g5. And then your other rook, you know, can come over. Yeah, Gawain Jones, standard attacking, you know. Standard attacking game for white. You rushed here with f5, and then you rushed with knight g5, and you can simply defend. You just simply didn't really calculate, you know, the consequences. So he's just defending. Maybe he could even play g5, but it looks bad. If I were black here, I'd honestly, you know, try to find a way to trade queens. I mean, maybe this. Bishop takes h6, even queen g4. But he's going to drop a pawn. You know, he's going to drop a clear pawn if he does that, so... But this is offering a draw. Check. Here. Here. And now black could play g5 if he wants to win. But clearly, in addition to a possible sacrifice, which may or may not be any good, probably not. This is probably too much, by the way. Because of bishop f5. Yeah, white missed the thematic bishop h6. It's very thematic. You're trading like his good bishop for your bad bishop, and you're leaving him with the bad bishop. That's how like Fritz 7 beat, like, you know, or Christopher Lutz beat Fritz 4 or whatever in Germany in like 1998 or whatever. You know, this endgame, man. It was a Grand Prix attack or something. Good knight on the dark squares versus bad bishop that was blocked in on c8. You know, it's the engine couldn't see the horizon. But this is bad. You let it slip. You know, again, now you're probably winning. Bishop h6, queen f8, okay. And then, like, this is thematically a good exchange. But your move is also very tempting. But my rule is to keep it simple when I'm winning, you know, so it might be simpler to play this. I understand this move. It might be good. He could have played bishop takes g7, bishop e7, and something like queen f7. Ultimately, maybe that's a better try to keep the game a little more complicated. But that's horrific. Now he's absolutely positionally lost and down a pawn. No, he's not down a pawn. Okay, he has this double pawn. It might as well be. King g1, good move. Queen f5. You're still winning on the dark squares. This is a very interesting move. Bishop f6. He might trade queens. So rook f1 is strong. Everything's going fine. He takes this, and I say it's the dark squares. It's game over. You know. That's insane. The guy can't play that move. You can't play bishop takes e5. Now he's lost. And I say this over and over again all the time. The most important thing when you have opposite colored bishops is the initiative. White's just simply winning. Just knight takes e5, queen e5, and bishop f6. You've got to be winning here. You're serious that he has this move? He won't survive. Alright, let's see. We can improve this somehow. Knight e5, queen e5. Do we have rook f7? He has queen d4 check trading queens. So we just don't trade queens. You have bishop f6, queen h5. This has got to be a winning position. The only rule is that we cannot trade queens. Bishop f4 is interesting. You like bishop e7? Guys are so primitive. Can he play bishop d7? He has a queen trade. No? This isn't a problem? Are you sure you want to allow a queen trade? Do we have to allow a trade of queens? Come on, this has to be a winning position. Without trading queens. Rook f8 check. Queen h6, queen g7. And there's a lot of endgames where we trade queens and we're still winning or clearly better. But if we don't trade queens, we have to be winning like directly. How can we avoid trading queens? Well, we can play bishop f6, force him to go there, and then move the queen to a different square like f4 or g3. I mean, I suspect this is definitely a good try. Now you would have to play knight e8. You know, something like knight e8. Knight e8, bishop e5, followed by like knight e2. My god, dude. Look at those pieces. Okay, rook a7, knight e2. What? Bishop takes e5? What are you talking about? Bishop takes e5. What are you guys talking about? Oh, bishop takes e5 loses? It loses to g4. Wow. Alright. It loses to g4. Yeah, it loses to g4. It loses for sure. It probably loses to other moves too. You need to understand like how important the color complex weakness is here. This is probably good. You know, his move is probably good. Bishop e7. And then you blundered bishop d4 check. You strategically have him. You have g4 again? You had g4. Well, it's a little different now because he has queen f4. Or possibly bishop d4 check? No. He has queen f4. But I mean, white's winning. Most likely. It's a different situation now. But I mean, you didn't lose because you didn't handle the opening badly necessarily. You lost on calculation. Or you didn't lose. You won it anyway. Alright. But you lost the thread. You're lucky you won after this. Yeah, rook f2 of course is forced. If you take, you know, you're gonna lose. You gotta do this. Even now you have some play on the dark squares. I agree with taking. Here's maybe a really important mistake. You have bishop d6 dominating his knight. You could have forced him to play rook c8 or knight a8. Yeah, it's a 3-minute game. Sorry. Of course. It wasn't bad quality for a 3-minute game. I played this guy. I know he's not bad. Oh, so you managed to win on time. Man, he made like 100 moves in 0 seconds. Wow. It's funny. Yeah, he's one of these guys who can make like a zillion moves in 0 seconds. Anyway, alright, it was a model game for that variation. Morales, except for f5, you went too far, you know. You need to be able to like change the... I think when you play the Grand Prix attack, you need to be able to change gears. It's not just about like checkmating the guy. A lot of times it is, but you can also turn it into like a Nimzovician like strategic masterpiece. That's what Roman used to do. I mean, he was excellent in any kind of Nimzovician positions. Just strangled them strategically on the color complex. Morales is white. This is from a tournament on Tuesday. Guys, please support the stream if you can. Thanks for the donation from Anil9. And don't forget to support the stream. We had only one gift sub so far this week, so do appreciate possible hype trains incoming. Alright, Morales playing the white pieces. Black, bishop c5. Morales with knight c3 here. I would go d3. I mean, I'm a wimp, but if I'm forced to play this, we're gonna go modern style. Nothing wrong with knight c3 though. It's a Vienna. I don't know what you call it actually. It's like a Vienna 4 knights hybrid. And now, yeah, we get the absolute minimum for white. the micro advantage of knight a4. This is a lot like other games we've seen, guys, where it's always about the bishop versus knight. You know, always about like some kind of slight advantage based on the bishop pair. Although I'm skeptical of these positions, it's really, really hard for white to use that bishop. I would think, like, you know, I would play bishop e6 here. That must be the World Senior 2019. Right before COVID struck. Victor Plotkin versus Renzo Mantovani. Both of those guys were in the World Senior last year, and I think 2019 was in Romania. It was the last World Senior. There was no World Senior in 2020, 2021. But this so small edge for white. Knight b6, a b6. Hard to use the start square bishop, you know, with 16 pawns on the board. The other possibility is for black to leave the bishop on c5, right? You could even theoretically, he could theoretically play something like, I don't know, h6, knight c5, dc5. I mean, what do you think about that? I'm not really an authority. Oh, bishop g4 has actually been played. Okay, so maybe that's more active. This is played by the Chinese Grandmaster. Zijun, the women's world champion. Or no, that's the... Wait, that's the women's world champion, right? Zijun. You know, so that's another approach. I don't know, this seems really, really tame for you, Morales. I feel like this isn't sharp enough for you. c3 is going to be played anyway. Well, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, when the knight will move and the c3 will be played. Yeah, I mean, this... Yeah, it doesn't do anything. It's a waste of a tempo. It's like a Slav on the other side of the board. But I don't know how you're supposed to handle this. But what if you were to play, like, takes, and then maybe, like, bishop b3? He has this. And if you go bishop here... Can we do that? Is that a thing? He trapped his bishop on a2. Is this a thing? It's a thing, apparently. I don't know. I don't want to let him trade off our bishop pair, you know, for the long term. But d4, b4, you made a pawn smile. But if the pawn smile, you know, gets cracked with, like, d5, we might get our teeth broken. I mean, my fear would be black gets us in, and then we end up in a situation where we might be backward here. I mean, obviously, you know, this position is going to hinge on tactics as well. I mean, you might be winning a pawn with knight c5, but I don't know, you know, like what happens in this kind of world where, like, these knights get skewered. I mean, there are a lot of tactics in this position as well as just general strategic ideas that I'm talking about. My point is that, like, b4 is a little bit loosening. Not the safest move. Now, if I'm him, you know, I don't really fully understand a6. But I guess he's just, like, forcing your hand. Maybe it is a good move. I mean, I've seen this happen a lot. This is supposed to be not that bad for black. I guess a6 is reasonable. I don't love black's pawn structure, but I've seen this done in similar positions. But I mean, I don't know. At this point, if I were black, I don't like the look of a5. So far, okay. You know, everything is sort of normal, but a5 here for black, really? See, he's not anticipating what you did, which is, like, important. But you have another possibility. You also have maybe a4. What about a4, the old a4 trick? Oh, you can take on a4. But I mean, a3 is a good move. I think that he, like, underestimated this. Yeah, I don't like a5. I agree, like, maybe d5, and now he's challenging your strong point. If you play bishop c5, whatever, you know, he goes here. You're going to have to take at some point and give up the strong point, and then, you know, hope that your two bishops are stronger than, although that bishop on c5 is going to get trapped. You know, you hope that your two bishops are stronger than his. But personally, I'm skeptical of b4. Alright, bishop e3, here, 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 here. Takes, and then he's stuck with a bad structure. Those pawns look real bad. I mean, double isolated. It's not clear to me, like, how b5 will hold up long term. Now he decides to play d5 with your bishop on c2. That seems like weird timing. Yeah, I mean, that's just not good timing. And Morales breaks through with control of his favorite square, e5. And now you just up a clear pawn with no compensation. Actually, you have compensation for his pawn, as Gigi used to say. White has the compensation for the pawn, for his opponent's pawn. He's down a pawn, and his king is, like, totally sketchy with not enough protection. Queen c5 is a bit of a weird move. Oh, I see, you're after the pawn. Aforementioned pawn. I don't know, Morales, like, lately it seems to me like your biggest issue seems to be that, like, when you're in time pressure, you're kind of crumbling, where you didn't always. Maybe you're not playing enough blitz or something. Do you have rook d7? That looks pretty strong. I don't see black living long. I don't think he's going to last long after rook d7. Problem here is, how do we break through? Oh no, the e5 square and e6 and then queen e5. Speaking of dark square coordination. Yeah, now he defended though. If you play e6, he just takes with the bishop. Morales in the dark squares. It sounds like a storybook. A chess storybook. Now we're threatening knight e7, followed by knight takes g6. So this is a cute win. Very nice. Alright, good game. I got two more games. Arsenal. Alright, Arsenal, it's been a long wait, but you are up. So, Arsenal and Schumacher, those guys sent in their games on the late side. Good night, Sladgie. Thank you, Repunj. Alright, Zakaria Emperor. Zakaria. Zachary. That's my personal preference, Antonio, but You know, I really wouldn't take my advice necessarily. I mean, it's a lot like... I think it's whatever you're comfortable with. I think it's okay, you just have to be careful. It seems safer not to play b4. If you look at that position where you're playing like knight a4 and b4, it's extremely similar to the Slav defense, where white is playing Karpovian plans. Like, I know Karpov is cancelled or whatever, but knight h4 in the Slav, where you're doing like h3, g4, bishop g6, and you do like knight h4, and you can even come back with knight g2 sometimes. You see that in the London, the Slav. No, it's a plan. You know, I don't know. I personally would prefer not to play with b4 because I'm afraid of creating more weaknesses. But I think you just consider it, you know, consider other options. So Arsenal played the Latvian. The only really, like, proven refutation of the Latvian is knight takes e5. If white doesn't play that, you know, it's not clear. There are some other interesting moves, like, I don't know, pawn takes f5. Maybe even bishop c4. But mostly, like, you have to play knight takes e5. I guess this move isn't so bad, d4. It's funny, I'd never... Let me see if I've had this. Yeah, I have 3 games. Okay. I have 2 out of 3. Zen Chess, Hates Miro, and Abject Pawn played d4 against me. I took on e4 in all games. Well, I pretty much think you have to. I mean, theoretically, what's black's other option to take on d4? Knight f6 could be some kind of weird... You could have some kind of weird elephant gambit. No, it's not an elephant gambit. I don't know what it is. This looks bad. This looks bad. Yeah, I don't think this is great for black. So f takes e4. Definitely... What is this game from? This is a blitz game. Okay, 3 minute. We're getting a lot of those today. Knight e5. And now, knight f6 is like forced. Someone played queen f6. That's interesting. Some guy who was playing Janza in 1989. Janza was pretty tough in 1989, man. Another 80-year-old grandmaster who's still going. Gotta give credit to those guys. I really hope I'm still playing chess at 80. That would be awesome. Nak and Janza are just unbelievable. Competitive chess at 80. Those guys are like, they're still almost 2400. They're both like the same rating as me, and they're 80. In today's world, where everyone's like rating deflation and stuff, I mean, to be a grandmaster and hold up almost to 2400 is pretty freaking unbelievable. Gaprindashvili was... Nona was amazing too. Knight f6. And then bishop c4. Oh, this reminds me of Nimzovich. Yeah, Nimzovich had a Latvian where he did a very similar thing. In one of his early games, don't remember the opponent. Obviously, it was a Latvian opponent. Nimzovich was born in Latvia, if you didn't know. What is today, you know, Latvia. The idea is to, like, hit black with c4. Imagine that, a Latvian player. That's probably why it became the Latvian. You know, games where Nimzovich was playing some Latvian guy. Bishop d6 looks right. Let's just say Arsenal. I think c5 is probably pushing the envelope a little bit here. But some guy actually held a draw against Rambaldoni. He's a good player. It's funny, I think I played one of them, those Rambaldoni guys, but I can't remember. Bishop d6 looks right. And now castles. Yeah, and I think like white thematically should be going for c4. Okay, it's not a big deal. You have c6 and you hold it together. Or alternatively, you could consider gambiting a pawn and playing like speaking of Nimzovich, maybe doing like a pawn sack, but nah. I guess c6, knight c3. You know, this is thematic. And then bishop e6, and then like bishop g5 or something. Alright, but f4 is a different approach. All I'm going to say is, I think if we're going to play like bishop c4 and get our bishop jammed up on b3, then we probably need to seriously consider playing c4. But he plays f4. And yes, I agree, Bijak, f3... I mean, obviously f3 needs to be considered. This move actively attacks black's center. f4 just, like, maintains the status quo and holds the knight on e5. But black remains with a very powerful pawn on e4. They're very different moves, f4 and f3. That's fine. Given my family history, 70-75 is probably the best I can hope for. Yeah, if I was a woman, I could make it into my 80s. My grandfather lived into his 70s. One of my grandfathers, anyway. So let's think positive. 80's a stretch, though, man. I don't think, you know, any men in my family recently have made it in the 80s. Dude, I have a small family, though, so I don't have much of a sample size to compare with. To be honest, I am lucky that the women in my family tend to live really long. My two aunts and my mom both lived into their 80s. My three closest female relatives both made it into their 80s. Or all three. Well, actually, I think my mom's sister made it to 90. And the other two were in their late 80s. So if only I was a woman, I would have really good chances. Castles, f4, and then c5. This is really aggressive, but logical. c3, knight c6, thematic, and then white crumbles. Crumbles Stiltskin. He gives up the strong point. I don't know, man. That doesn't look good. Now we have a major question to ask. Do you want to take on c5 or do you want to take out his e5? This should be considered, right? But I admit his bishops look really scary, you know. You could stick a knight on like d3. I agree, Bijak. Knight h4 seems winning. Yeah, nice idea, Arsenal. With exchange sack, but I don't think so. You got too much development here. He's parked in the corner. Look at that. T for timeout. Time for tea. I don't believe in that. You know, I don't think that's gonna fly. What is this knight h4 crap? What knight h4? Turn the board around. Alright. Yeah, but I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced. I mean, I think he can play like bishop g5 or something. You can go here though. I just wasn't sure. Yeah, I trust your method of playing it better. Bishop takes, king h1. This is definitely better. But we need to calculate. Yeah, again, like the problem is white's development on the queen side. But I really don't particularly want to trade queens. You have bishop g4. Now you can play knight h5, Bijak. He's like, now knight g4. Are you drunk? Now knight g4. No, I'm just saying, like, you were talking about knight h4 forever. And, like, finally it's actually possible to play for knight h5. But I'm telling you, man, turn the board around and stop reading in Cyrillic. Bishop takes c5, king h1, knight e5. This is the natural way to play. Knight g4. And now the problem is that d5 is dropping with check. Arsenal fan with an absolutely stunning move here. Queen takes e6 check. Bishop e6. Triple exclam. Are you serious? I don't think I've ever seen that one before. Ooh, that's a neat idea. Wow. So trading queens is possible. What happens here? Can somebody explain to me what's going on? Can anyone? It's very simple. White does not have a lot of options if he were to reach this situation. The best of them would probably be like bishop c4, preventing mate in 1, and then knight here, check, king here, and then check, and then mate anyway. That's really nasty. Needless to say, like, white underestimated bishop e6. Knight d2 is the better try. Okay, let's see. Queen d8, rook d8, bishop takes e6 check, king h8. Now which knight d2? Knight d2 right away, or rook takes rook followed by knight d2? Knight d2 right away. The online immortal game. You want to do this, and then knight d2? Well, white has at least a draw. I think we can safely say that. I mean black, sorry. The other white. If you really want to be mean, you could do this. Check. Oh, it doesn't work. It does work. Yeah, that would be funny. Check. Haha. Check. Check. And then you make the 40 move, the repetition draw. Okay. So what happened in the game was not this, but I just want to double check this. Check, king h8, sorry. Queen takes, rook takes, bishop takes e6, check, king h8, rook takes rook, knight d2. e3 is possible. That's not going to work. Our knight is hanging. So we have to play knight here, check, king here, and now what? Now e3? Now e3. Interesting stuff. Like, for example, knight f3, rook takes knight, pawn takes, e2. This isn't going to work, is it? Maybe it will. Fortunately, he has this. Still not clear. This pawn falls at the end. That would be a disaster. Alright, let's see the engine. Alright, king h8, knight d2 is the best. No, rook f8. No, here. Okay. Wow, he has a draw. So it is a draw. Wow. Queen d8, rook d8. Our line holds. Takes. Let's make sure. king h8, rook f8, rook f8, knight d2, and it's a draw. And you can do my joke variation if you want to. No win for Arsenal, only a draw. The Latvian is a forced draw. Yeah, I was really hoping we had more. I was really hoping there was a way to win this. Depth 38. The immortal draw from Arsenal. Nice job, man. Well, at least you didn't lose. Queen takes, check here. Yeah, that was lucky. Like, I think he made the assumption that everybody makes in a 3-minute game. Like, if I play this, oh shit, I'm getting mated. Oh, that's not legal. You just assume black can do rook takes, rook check. Alright. Now it's just over. Over. This is... I gotta give your opponent credit, though. I mean, queen g8 is a really nice move. You gotta give this guy credit for finding that. Like, most people probably would have just resigned, you know? I mean, in all honesty, queen g8 is a really, really nice move. I didn't even think of it. I guess stale, you know, smothered mates are on his mind or something. I don't know why. So now we're simply down a pawn. Minor compensation, huh? I mean, dude, we can't just lose a piece here. He's gonna just lose a piece by playing h3? That can't be right, master. I don't think that losing a piece is an option. I mean, I'm sure, like, white is lost, but at least, like, try this or something. No? Check. What? Oh, he has h2. Okay, he's not losing a straight-up piece. Alright. It is cute, though. That is cute. Artistic. Artisticush. Yeah, I was seriously wondering if she'd play, like, knight e4 instead. You're on the bishop, but he has knight a3. I mean, this looks really well centralized. I would think black was definitely winning. Which is the better move here? Clearly, your move. I mean, I guess there's a bunch of different wins. But is there anything more? What, bishop f4 check? Should you play this differently? Rook f8? Right, like, I don't know. Like, this. It's not that simple. He's got knight c2. I was wondering about rook f8, you know, to go down to f1. Knight c2. I mean, I imagine you're winning. You're like, but maybe your rook e8 is as good as anything. It may be that your move is just as good as anything. I mean, this, just picking this up, but he has knight c4, doesn't he? I'm a little concerned here. Is this definitely winning? Don't know about that. He didn't want you to play b5. I guess that's understandable. That's understandable. Oh no. So what if he had played, let's just say, not a4, but c4 instead. Let's do the same thing, but control this square. I mean, you probably have time to, like, go in there and, like, eat that pawn. Can we see knight a3, bishop c1, please? Yeah. It wins. But it's a slow process. It's not just auto-winning. It still involves playing, like, rook f8. I still like rook f8, like penetrating down in there. Arced there, but we still have bishop c1. Down knight d4. It's complicated, and there's a lot of different ways to win. But I'm interested in this ending. Is this definitely winning after c4? a4 is top, g4, a4, g. What's wrong with c4? I was thinking rook e4. But he almost has enough time, like king g2, rook takes c4, king f3. He's right on the verge of, like, threatening to hold on. So check this out. It's a really nice idea. Yeah, if c4, rook here. So you could have done it in the game. Oh shit. a4, rook f5. You had this. So that's basically game over. You just go down to f1. He's got to sack a bishop for the pawn. Wow. Like rook f1, rook e2, rook e1. You had an easy direct way to win there. Okay. Rook e5, a4. But this is nice with the king. You can't keep your king out. You're definitely winning. But I honestly don't know why. I don't know why you moved your pawn here. I thought you would just go to c4. I mean, ultimately you're threatening, what, knight takes and, like, king d3. So he doesn't have time to do anything. It doesn't matter. Anyway, it was well calculated. He can't go into the king and pawn in game. And Ars had it all the way. He had him all the way. That was fun, though. That was fun. 2 queens. It's rare we get to do a queen mate, double queen mate. Stalemate. You didn't let him stalemate? Time for a king move. You should have played queen b8 here. I always like stalemate people when I make 5 queens. Alright. Good game, Ars. Guys, don't forget to support the stream. Donate. Donate. Gift subs. Tomorrow we're going to be back, Friday. Don't forget, Friday, open mic night. So, Friday we're doing requests for subscribers. Opening requests for subscribers. That is, subscribers can do opening requests. Not like former subscribers. Current subscribers. Okay, last game, Schumacher. The Caro-Kann. Ugh, he played pawn takes pawn here. Okay, there's only one way to make that work. He has to play the Fischer variation, and he did. Okay. Hey, how about knight f6? This would be fun. Knight f6, dc6, knight c6. Nepomniachtchi played this against Machea and Drew. Dude, that is just dis. Wow. Alright, seriously. C takes d5. This is against Angelito RT. I have no idea who that is. Russian television. And by the way, like, as far as what move to play against this mineral bath variation, like Sladgie would always tell me the story how Fischer showed them this variation at the mineral bath. He was obsessed that it was like a forced advantage for white. He must have been really losing it by that point. This must have been like after the match with Spassky, sometime in the late 90s. He must have been really losing it. It's a little crazy to claim like this is better for white. It's interesting, and it's actually picked up some popularity. Gawain Jones suggests this in his yeah, Queen H5 is an idea, obviously, but Gawain Jones suggested this in his repertoire book, like a coffee house repertoire or whatever, that Hey It's Miro has. I mean, it's, you know, there are some traps and stuff, but objectively it's equal. A6. That's a professional move. Alright. I bet A6 isn't the best move. Yeah, I don't know, Arsenal. You should try Queen H5. That's definitely a novelty. Okay, so Schumacher plays the obvious move, I would say, like challenging the strong knight on E5. The point is to play D4. You know, you would think like the point was to play bishop B5. I guess that is a move, but the main line is D4. Which really just turns it into a form of exchange variation. You know, at first you would think, well, this is no big deal, you know, I'm just trading pieces. But, you know, this position is kind of the point, I guess. It looks kind of not that dangerous, but white's a tiny bit better. Like, you definitely don't want to play this with black against Magnus, with this nagging advantage. Yeah, bishop f5 is probably bad, for example. But I think it's a good question here, you know. Like, first of all, how do you choose between, like, knight c6 and knight f6? I mean, it's not easy. But somehow this isn't as good. But this is played too, actually. Bishop d7, knight d7, queen d7, d4. Speaking of Magnus Carlsen, I'm surprised there's no games here. I still think that white is tiny bit better. White is a bad score, dude. Look at his score. Why is white's line, like, why is white's score so bad in this variation? It's really strange. I mean, it's very safe. But the problem is, like, Duda is the only good player who's played this, is the problem. And he lost. You got a problem when the only good player is Duda and he lost. Huh. But anyways, the point is that Gawain Jones recommends d4, and that's established itself as the main line. I would imagine queen c7 is possible, even on, like, move. What would happen if queen c7? Well, you would transpose to d4. And this is a little early. You could run into bishop f4. Queen c7, maybe dangerous. Alright, so here we go. Okay, so c3. Apparently, like, this is more testing. Then you're supposed to play bishop d7. And now, white has two ways to approach it. Bishop c6, bc6, or bishop takes c6. Unarkiev. Not a lot of fun to play this line for black, though. Kramnik Caruana. Carlsen Dreyev 2014. Carlsen Vidit 2016. This is still a main line. Okay, now what to do? Yeah, who played black after b takes? Bishop e5, bishop d7, bishop takes, pawn takes, Gareev. Does that answer your question? I was gonna ask, like, why is Gareev playing the Caro-Kann, you know? The guy's nuts. I mean, he's completely nuts. I mean, why would he play the Caro-Kann? He plays like the Grob with white. I would think like g6 is definitely safest to have the safer king side. But Bijak here played e6. We have a problem with this bishop, man. You could literally transpose into the Stonewall attack and get like destroyed here. This is very close to transposing directly. It will transpose directly into a Stonewall attack. So that's a serious problem. I don't want to play the black side of a bad passive Stonewall attack for black. And I agree, like, bishop f5 looks kind of sketch. You would think, like, even queen f3 or some kind of weird move like that would be possible. Yeah, sign me up for g6. I'll take my chances with that. Yeah, it's not like black has lost Arsenal, but it's literally a Stonewall attack now. So, majority of players took on e5. That's what Roman taught me. He said if the opponent has a piece like in your territory and it's strongly outposted, you should like get rid of it before it does some damage. I mean, obviously this makes the most sense. After pawn takes, knight d7. Rob Brenovich. Why do I know that name? Oh, that's one of those Serbian guys who's young and improving. I mean, I guess here we're going to get hit by a c4 at some point in the future, possibly. Future perfect. The position could shift to a kind of advanced variation style thing. But maybe you really ought to consider taking before it's too late and white plays like f4. Well, that takes away knight d7 for you. So I would think like white would castle. This is weird. He grabs your bishop. Alright. He's kind of transposing to other games where that happens in a different situation, like earlier. But I agree, it's weird. After bishop d7, he should castle. And I guess if you play something along the lines of bishop d6, you're threatening queen c7. We need to seriously consider f4. And it does become a Stonewall attack, you know, and to me, I mean, this looks like a good Stonewall attack for white. Plus 0.8, according to the computer. It's extremely dangerous. Yeah, the engine's recommending knight e7, and I think that might be a good move. So I think you should take on e5 if you get the chance. But this is definitely a concession. He's going for a very small Magnus Carlsen like edge after knight takes d7. No big attack, just the two bishops. It's probably not as good. Unless you're Magnus. Now here is interesting. I don't know where you should put your bishop. Bishop d6 is more active. Definitely. You might be able to play e5, but you're going to have to be very careful about that. And this is a double-edged thing to do. You would create a lot of weaknesses on your white squares for the rest of the game. If you do this break, there's no going back. You're now committed to the IQP. I don't know if it's a good idea to break with e5, but it's definitely a possibility. Let's see what the computer says. Doesn't really like it. White is consistently better. So you castled, and then rook e1. Yeah, I thought this was weird when you sent me the game. This is a typical kind of position where that rook wants to be behind the f-pawn. So his ideal setup is something like f4, knight f3, queen e2, and bring the other rook over to e1. So I thought this was a little bit weird because he isn't supporting f4. It's almost like he had absolutely no intention of ever playing f4. f4 was not even in his, mind. He does not play f4. So he plays without f4. But it's hard to get much, without f4. Now if knight f3, again, you could break, but do you want to break? I don't know. White's slightly better. I don't really know what else to recommend, though. You just played rook e8, so you're kind of committed. And you did. Okay. Yeah. But I think white's a little better. It's a fast game, and he's playing routine. He's probably just playing to, win on time. Objectively, Magnus is better. 2800. What was the time control? 3-0? Yeah. Yeah, even h3 is debatable. You gotta, If you have a white square bishop, alright, and the black doesn't have a light square bishop, why would you play h3? Wouldn't you play g3? Magnus would definitely play g3. We play g3 because this can come back here and go to, g2. h3 is the artificial kind of solution. You're not even threatening bishop takes h2 or anything. I think it's stupid. With g3, you don't have any chance. You think he's gonna checkmate you? You've got bishop f1. This is not happening. Definitely g3 when you have a white square bishop. He's just a really fast kind of routine player. And now acerbate. Unbelievable. Yeah, and suddenly it's oh shit, it's a little late for g3. Oh man. Knight h5! Knight h5! You should be screaming knight h5. GM Mitraba is raiding with a party of 8. Welcome. GM Mitraba. White, I don't think that White planned this to happen this way. I don't think he was planning on your queen coming into h2. Obviously g3 would have been better. Nice to get some raids here. We're low on viewers, but I have to close the stream out after this game. But thank you for the raid. Thanks to you guys for following. GM Mitraba followed. Also Gilga. It's instructive, though. A 3-0 game, white playing reflexively, allows black a crushing initiative. Nearly winning attack. But do we have enough here to finish him off? Rook e3. You did it. Okay. You've got knight e4. Oh, man. That's a really nice move. Look at Bijak's pieces. All 4 pieces. Perfectly active. Check, and this is the key idea. You have to be winning in this position. He has to go to d3. Even if you don't checkmate him, just hypothetically, you take another pawn on h3, you have 2 pawns for the exchange. You're not even down any material. You can take a pawn, take this one. Leave him with 4 Isolani. And honestly, there's no open files. This is funny, right? There's not a single open file on the whole board. And he's got a rook. Ideal situation to have an extra exchange, right? Hey, let's get a position where we have 4 isolated pawns and not a single open file. He has four half open files. That's pretty funny. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 half open files, no open files. It's a pretty good situation to be down the exchange for you. Queen e4 check, king d2, and it's just a matter of time. You should focus. You should have taken that pawn though. That would have destroyed his pawn structure. a6 is fine. Yeah, but you don't want to be like trading queens here. So you grab another pawn, fine. 2 pawns for the exchange. Safer king. No open files. You're fine. Winning, not easy. You're going to have very good technique to win this. And you could even lose because of the time situation. h6, you know, honestly, like maybe you should play h5. Because ultimately, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind like maybe getting that pawn down to the 7th rank. I think your king likely has to walk out in some lines. Maybe not. But I would play h5, like seriously, no fear. No problem with that. He could sack or something. Maybe he'll draw by sacking the exchange back into opposite colored bishops. But the way you played it is fine. I mean, honestly, like here, in the sending, you know, you're clearly better. I mean, but you're gonna have to be careful. If he was to get his rook active, it could flip flop. The computer doesn't think you're clearly better. It thinks it's equal. All right, I stand corrected. It's equal. But I think with the queens on, you're still better. b3, a5, probably could be a mistake. And then e4, fine, you're gonna have it. But you should have taken, right? Take, try to get in here. You probably have to take. This is tricky now. You could lose. Maybe you're better off not taking his bishop. You left the position open up, now there's open files. Open files, bad. Opponent have rook, open files, bad. Okay, so here, this is probably a draw. But let's say queen d7, he has e4. Could have played it right away, but he saw queen a4 check. So this guy's very alert tactically. He played b3 to stop queen a4 check to enable e4. So you should have played probably queen e7 or something like that. Stopped e4, threatened to come in here. You could also harass the c3 pawn. You're obviously better. This is a new weakness. You should be zoning in on that. But at this point, the time, a5 doesn't really do much. And the c5 becomes a real problem. It's possible you're not lost here, but now you've lost a lot of ground. Serious amount of ground. Do you have knight g4? It's a big fork here and another fork here. No, bishop f5, queen f5, queen f5, knight e3 check, king d3, knight takes f5. What's happening? Let's calculate it. Alright. Take, check, king d3, takes. I don't think you're losing here, but you're going to have to get those pawns on real fast. I mean, maybe you could just... Yeah, you can't play king f8 because of e6. It's possible you're lost, I guess. Man, I just really don't want to accept it. Yeah, it's a draw, but black has to play, like, extremely perfectly, looks like. Yeah, it's not easy now. Yeah, allowing e5 was a big mistake. I mean, it gives him a lot of space. Maybe you're not lost still. Queen e7, you're trying to get in there. And he takes on d5. Oof. Can you play this any other way? Not really. So he's alert, man. You gotta give this guy credit. b4, nice move, guarding the a2 square. You know, he's very, very fast and tactically alert. Not like a genius player, but really good technique. Specialist in blitz, I assume. b4, knight c7. You got nothing on the light squares. So I guess queen a4 check. And then he just goes here. You're just totally out of luck. Yeah, his 3 pieces are too strong now. I mean, it basically comes down to a color complex attack. You don't have enough on the dark squares, and he's like outgunning you on the light squares. Yeah, it's over. No, it really went under. He went under when he started playing like a5, close to under. Yeah, I think this is the last chance to do knight g4. Bishop f5, takes. Knight check, king d3, takes. You have 2 connected passers on the king side, but it's hard to get them moving. I think the engine said this. The problem with that is that gives him king d4. So the other move is bishop a7, but it's like, what is our forward plan now if we play bishop a7? Rook f1, speaking of open files, and then you have to go now. Yeah, it looks like objectively, maybe with like perfect play you can just hang on for a draw, but you know, most people other than 2800s would probably lose this, especially in time pressure. Your only chance is these 2 connectors. It would be pretty hard to hold that, man. In a long game, maybe, but in blitz, forget about it. Anyway, guys, good games today. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Thanks for your support. We had a nice donation. Thanks for the raid, and also another follower just now, Bez Domi 4E. Thank you. Guys, we'll be back tomorrow with blitz. Sorry, rapid games with opening requests for subscribers. Thanks, Mr. Coffee. Always good to have you. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Arsenal, good job. Thanks for the fun game today, all of you. Bye-bye. Thank you, Antonio. Last call for bits. 100 bits from Antonio. Last mention. I'll see you guys later. Have a great night. Bye-bye.